talk a little bit about the emitters. You have low flow emitters that I have here, and you have high flow emitters. And they'll say on the packages in the box where you bought them whether they are. And that means that how much they emit. A low flow emitter will emit from a half gallon, 1 gallon, or 2 gallon per hour. Those are low flow. The high flow emitters or drippers will emit from 4 gallons up to 24 gallons per hour. Or you get into an adjustable that you can turn the collar, and they go from 2 to 15 gallons per hour. And those adjustables are what we'd use on a tree. You might put these around, but you just want you to know the adjustables are available. You turn the collar on them to adjust for the flow. Other things you know about, we have emitters that will install on top of PVC. So you can screw them onto PVC like this using a riser. It has the emitter right in the cap, and you run the 1/4-inch line right to the plant. Also, you can do it where you have this, where you run the 1/4-inch line from a PVC tee. Put an insert in it and run the 1/4-inch line up to the plant like this, and put the emitter at the end of the 1/4-inch line. These inserts might be available in your area, they might not be available, but they are good for a PVC drip system. This is also, like I told you, was good for a PVC drip system. The other thing we have is a poly system where you can use the emitters on for poly. You punch in a connector and you run the 1/4-inch poly and you put the dripper on the end. Or you could have it where you punch the dripper in and run off of this also. You can push the dripper into the poly like this and have the 1/4-inch going up. Usually if you put the emitters underground, they're mainly for commercial use to stop vandalism. Also, you see here the different fittings that I have that I've attached to the soft poly hose to run the emitters. Here's a T. So underground I could punch a T in and I could run 2 lines off of it to 2 different plants. Or I could use this same fitting that we have right here. As you see these little fittings here, they're small 90s, T's, connectors, a coupling. What you can do with these, you can also put them on top of ground. So where I have the poly coming out of ground from the bottom, I could put this T in here, and then I could install 2 more pieces of poly on the end and go to 2 separate plants and install 2 more emitters or drippers there. One of the other things we have when we're talking about drippers and punching them into poly hose that you need to know about is goof plugs. These are these things right here. They come on a rack, and these plugs, in case you plug in and you decide, well, wait a minute, I don't want that there. I punched a hole, I don't need it. You can take this out, take a goof plug, push it in, and seal that hole off, and they do work quite well because remember, these are low pressure systems. They are not pushing more than 20 to 30 on a residential system. So the soft poly is good. The hardline PVC is good for using it so that you can have a PVC system. And the reason you'd go with hardline PVC over softline is maybe for rodents and for longevity. If you're planning on this is the last home you're going to buy and you're going to be here forever, then you might want to go ahead and put a PVC drip system in when you do it instead of the soft poly system. The soft poly system, don't get me wrong, they will last a long time. Just that the PVC system obviously will last a lot longer. One of the other inserts that we have for PVC is this collar right here. This glues also into a 1/2-inch fitting. And this is where you can take the 1/2-inch poly hose, wet the end, and push this in so that if you wanted to run PVC out to an isolated area and then run some drip but use the soft poly, this is how you would do it. You'd buy one of these collars. Remember, they glue into a 1/2-inch fitting. So you could run the PVC out, put a 1/2-inch PVC fitting in, glue this in, plug in a piece of poly hose, and run that around to water that area. Some of the other things that we have available for the drip system, one thing that sometimes is you want to have in an area is on the end of your poly hose that you want to put on is a drip cap. This cap right here goes on the end of the drip line so that you can unscrew it and flush your drip system. Take that off and you can put it back on and it seals. When you want to do this, you want to put it in one of the small cans so that you always know where it is so you can get to it for flushing. Other things you can use is this for the end of the line. This is just a bend over. You put it on, you bend your poly over, shove it back through there. It just bends like this, and you shove this back on, and now that's an end cap. That's a different type of an end cap. You want to have those on the ends of your poly lines. You need to use those end caps. So remember to buy one of those. One of the other things we have here is a flush cap. This is a flush cap that what happens is when the pressure is released off, the valve shuts, This here will open and allow the whole system to drain. So if you're in a cold area, you might want to use a flush end, or in other areas, some people use them on commercial, and even the residential, we use them sometimes, just to make sure we're flushing that line every time that valve shuts off, keeps the particles out. And this also you'd want to install inside of one of those small cans that we showed you for a valve pit. Other things you need to know about on the drip systems here are sprays. These are little micro sprays that some people want to use. They have a stake on them. You hook the 1/4-inch poly up here coming off of your line, and you can spray the top of a root ball of a tree or spray a shrub. Or also these are good for pots or container grown plants. You'd use something like this, a small little spray. And they come in different configurations, full, half, stream, mushroom. They come in different ways. Just take a look at them and you'll see what the patterns are they spray. Fittings. Over here are some of the fittings that we use for the 1/2-inch poly. These are all different ones. They all work on the 1/2-inch poly. From some that you have to tighten up, to some, these are compression, just like the collar I showed you, that you just wet the end of the 1/2-inch and slide it in. Remember, on fittings on soft poly systems, if you're in a cold area, I don't recommend you use any more fittings than you have to. This pipe bends. You see I got it bent here. This stuff will bend in a lot of cases without kinking. So the less amount of fittings you use, the better on a soft poly system, and only because of the freezing. If you use these, make sure that when you shut your system off, you can drain your fittings easily.